Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Auto Guide Show brought to you by eBay Motors. This week we drive an electric truck, a couple new SUVs, and a really fun car that's supposed to have even more fun attached. Later, we discuss Porsche making the biggest change to the 911 in probably ever, and we sit down and talk with Robby DeGraff. But first, a word from our sponsor. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Your elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a driveway entirely its own. Brake kits, LED headlights, whatever you need, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. All right, so let's just dive right into the reviews and features of the week. First up, we have a first drive that you did, Kyle, down in somewhere in South Texas, I think.
Fort Worth, yes, with the 2025 Genesis GV80. Yeah, I mean, really, it's actually new. For people who are watching the video, it doesn't look much different. There are some subtle design changes, but that's because really it doesn't need much done to it. The GV80 kind of debuted it was the first of the ground up designs at Genesis that uses this twin line look. And in my eyes, it's still a really successful one. It's easily identifiable on the road. And so all they've done is tweak the bumper designs and given us some new colors and still huge wheels. The big changes are inside. There's new tech, a lot more standard safety kit or upgraded safety kit. And yeah, it basically... It's pretty familiar. If you didn't like it before, you're not going to like it now. But I am a big fan of the GV80 because it does a lot of what I want out of a luxury SUV, where it's very comfortable, it's very spacious, it has probably the best interior in the class as far as I'm concerned in terms of style and just quality. And it has tons of actual colors available. There's a lot of two-tone color combinations for the leather, which are really nice. We got to talk to the person behind that and get a walkthrough as to why they've chosen those colors. Yeah, the only drawback I would say with the GV80 is that it is carryover powertrains. It's still the Turbo 4 and Turbo 6. They're good, but the Germans have better powertrains, and there's no hybrid or electric option yet.
Yeah, the Coupe version of this is going to get that electric supercharged turbocharged, so that gives it a little more power. This is the car I'll be taking this summer on that long charity rally road trip. So we got to order one, and we picked the dark blue, which has a special color combo, and it's really cool inside. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, like this isn't, a very sporty sport SUV. This is a nice, comfortable cruiser that's really stylish and luxurious. I mean, it has adjustable dampers, but it's still, I don't think it's not a GV70, that's for sure.
No, yeah, you can put it in sport mode, but it's happier when it isn't. We'll see how the Coupe changes that, though.
Yeah. So moving on, it is you and another SUV.
Yes, from the same parent company. So I was in the Palisade a few weeks ago. It's the XRT, or at least the closest thing in the US is the XRT. It's called the Urban in Canada. The funny difference there is that while they both look similar in terms of styling, we don't get the additional crossbars on the roof. But in Canada, the Urban is actually the base trim, because the Palisade is now just two trims because everyone buys top trims in Canada. So Hyundai figured, why bother selling the lower ones? I'm also figuring the new Santa Fe has something to do with that too, where if people want a more affordable 3-row from Hyundai, well, you go to the blocky little brother. We're big fans of the Palisade. I say it in my review that it won our 3-row comparison last year. It's very good at what it does, but we've always driven the top trim. So we wanted to see what, a more affordable version is like. And sure enough, it's still really good. You miss out on a few toys, but if you're looking for a practical, comfortable, affordable 3-row, this is still one of the best.
Yeah, Hyundai seems to be doing that a lot in Canada, where they're paring down their trims. That's the Sonata I had, just had two trims as well. It's just their new strategy. It's funny for those watching how much different the front end looks with just blacking out the grille and part of the bumper. It gives it a completely different look, even though it's not.
Yeah, it has a very Stormtrooper look. I will say one of my criticisms about it is actually the same as the GV80, where the powertrain is just kind of there. It's fine.
Yeah, the GV80 is a good powertrain, both of them. This has probably been its biggest weakness, and it's still there. So,
Yeah.
no, here's hoping something comes down the road, maybe in the next gen or during a big refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looks like an Outlander from a distance.
Yeah, if you, there's a very Stormtrooper-y vibe to that color combo.
All right, we're just continuing with the Kyle show. So next there is the Rivian R1T, which is the one of only two all-electric pickup trucks right now.
Yes. Well, no, I mean, you can technically get the Chevy Silverado EV somewhere.
Yeah,
they are selling them.
It in the Hummer I don't really count yet because you're not seeing them regularly in the wild. So.
True. So I drove the R1T. We drove the R1S almost exactly a year ago, and it's pretty much the same inside. It's just there's a bed out back. It is one of those vehicles because of the newness in this area. People were following me on the road. People were, like rubbernecking everywhere. But I really enjoy the R1T because it is the right size of truck. It's somewhere between a midsize and a full size. Very practical. That pass through the gear tunnel behind the passenger compartment and just at the beginning of the bed is very fun to just throw groceries in. You get very strange looks. And you can still access it from the back seat if you need to. There's a pass through there. There's just a lot of very practical things that are like the R1T was designed for, which is a little ironic because I imagine most people aren't using it for truck things. It's quick. The interior is very cool. I really appreciate that Rivian and Lucid, to name another startup EV, is really embracing a distinctly American and more West Coast kind of vibe to the interiors of their vehicles. It's nice and it's very calming. It's not all angry and aggressive like most trucks are, including the face, right? Like that, the stadium lights. It's a unique looking vehicle. It is fairly capable off-road. I didn't test it to its limits, but it does have over a foot of ground clearance. So if you're worried about that, you can raise it pretty high. 800 and something horsepower is more than enough. It's just that it's way too pricey, and I'm looking forward to Rivian expanding down market.
Yeah, it's sort of like a hey, look what we can do model. And then, like you said, hopefully they go down. I mean, they showed a whole bunch of models, so we'll see if those come and how they are. The pass through, can you access that through the bed?
You cannot.
So it's not full Chevy Avalanche. Actually, even the Silverado EV has that too. So
the drop, yeah,
where you can put like super long 2x4s or whatever you want all the way through. But I suspect people who buy this are doing mild truck things. Like they're not, like you said, doing hard, going to the construction site, towing stuff, but they're probably throwing bikes and dirty outdoor gear in the back or stuff in the gardening center. So yeah, I could see the appeal.
Yeah, and the advantage of vehicles like this is I noticed usability updates to the infotainment since the last R1S I drove. So it's a very good product, and I understand why they started at the top because that's where the profit is. But I'm really excited to see what Rivian does in the future with more affordable vehicles.
All right, so moving on, we had our part-time co-host and general good guy Jeff Wilson went and drove the Subaru WRX RS. So if you're in America and you're wondering what is this, it is basically the exact same as the TR. I haven't had a chance to really look at the specs. Maybe there's a heated seat there or something that's different, but mechanically with the Brembo updates and the suspension updates, it's the same vehicle. So we had someone drive the TR about a month ago. This was a track test, but if you read Jeff's article, it was a monsoon. during the day, which was fine because this thing can do that. But the standing water started getting too deep on the track that people were hydroplaning. So they pulled the plug. So then they took it on the street. And basically, he summed up what they're trying to do. It's not an STI and it's not an STI replacement, but it's a slightly sharper WRX. I think if you're regularly canyon driving or lapping days or even autocross, just having those brakes alone is worth it because they can take a lot more abuse, a lot more sessions, and they have a lot less fade. Will Subaru bring something even more hardcore down the road? Who knows? But this seems like it is what it is. If people go in expecting it to be like a 98 STI, it's just not going to be that. And one important point for the Canadian listeners, this is priced almost the exact same in Canada as the US. And I don't mean after conversion. I mean the Canadian dollar amount is almost the same as the US dollar amount. So it's a screaming deal up in Canada. For comparison, I looked it up with the Corolla Circuit, the GR Corolla Circuit, which is their top model. And it's like $17,000 cheaper in Canada, whereas in the US it's only like $4,000. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's all I was going to add is, in Canada, this feels far more appealing. As someone who is kind of lukewarm on the regular WRX, I'm very curious about this.
Yeah, it's not even the top trim in Canada. They have some ones on top, whereas in the US it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and our final final review of the week.
Yes. So Nissan invited us on a European tour last year. So we did, as the tagline says at the start of the article, we went from Cambridge to Paris, and we did it in a single day. And in the 24 area, we did it in a single charge. The catch is that we actually did that in the Ontario versions of those cities. And we hit seven other towns on the way that are also named after destinations in Europe. If you did it in Europe, it would take almost a week and about 9,000 miles. But it was it's an interesting way for a company to give us a little bit of time with a model that debuted last year. And so not a lot has changed for this year, but it's just to give us, a refresher. And so make it a little fun day road trip and explore a lot of small towns. And it was a reminder of just how good the Aria is at being a road trip, comfort-oriented vehicle. We've driven it a few times and we like it, but it's got a distinctly more laid-back feel. I think you'd agree, Mike, than most other EVs in the segment.
Yeah. It's I think last time I reviewed it, I said it's not an electric SUV. It's an SUV that just happens to be electric. It really feels like just a compact SUV. And it's good you got to drive around a lot, because that too just shows how much distance you can actually cover, where people are worrying about range anxiety. I mean, you can drive a long time before you hit the max. You're not doing that every day, but that's another story.
Yeah.
So no, that's great. It sounds like a fun trip. We're going to get a update on Project Genesis Coupe now. Last week it was wheels, so this week, surprise, surprise, it's tires, and it's really coming together. eBay Motors is here for the ride. With the parts you need at the prices you want, and with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, they're guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. Welcome to another episode of Project Genesis Coupe. Now, we've done a lot to the car, but it's not done by any means. There's still a lot I want to do and repair on it. So those watching, you may see the giant box beside me, or those listening, I'll describe what it is, and it is an exhaust. I spent a lot of time deciding which exhaust to get. I wanted something that looked good, sounded good, but wasn't too loud, and of course was quality. There are a lot of choices out there, but not many by the big names anymore, because this was an older car. So I ended up settling on Borla because I love Borla exhaust. It's a known name. I've had them before. I've always liked their sound, and they still make a full catback system for my Genesis Coupe. So let's take a look at this before we get it installed. Now, I don't want to take this out of the box quite yet because I'm going to take it to the shop to get installed, but here's a little preview for those watching. Those who are listening, if you go to YouTube and find the AutoGuide.com channel, you'll be able to see this for yourself. It's a dual tip on either side, so quad tip, and you can see the actual outlets are a little narrower than the outside of the tips, and they have reinforcement to keep them in the right position and basically to give them a little bit of style. So I guess it's time to get this on the car and then go and see how it looks and how it sounds. So it's a couple days later and I just picked my car up from my good friends at Clarkson Auto. I had more than just one thing done, but we'll cover that over the next couple weeks. This week we're going to focus on the exhaust. I have the Borla catback installed, and before I get into it, I gotta say, very happy with it. But let's look at it and more importantly, hear it. Starting from back here, I like the look much better. I like the more modern 4-tip look than the sort of odd D-shape exhaust that came with its stock. I mean, the taillights and the wheels obviously help. As we get a little closer, you'll see that the tips fit nicely right inside the stock housing. The actual tip itself is nice and shiny for now. And like I said, it's kind of got the bezel inside and a little bit of a baffle to help quiet it down. You get way underneath the car, you can see how it runs. It sits a little lower than my old stock exhaust, but the whole car does now, and we'll get into that more next week. So I'll give you a little sound of what it sounds like starting up, and then let's take it on the road and see what we really got. So I've kind of alluded to it throughout this series, but never really flat out came out and said it. The point of all of these upgrades hasn't been to make this a weekend track weapon. What I'm trying to do is fix some parts that were worn out or just about worn out, and also upgrade areas that I always wanted to. The goal was to keep it more streetable and an everyday vehicle while gaining a better look and a bit more performance. And with the exhaust, that's exactly what it is. I was really afraid of getting something that was too loud, so I went with Borla, as I mentioned, which is a known name and I figured should be a quality piece. And having it installed, it looks great, as we just saw, and it fits great, which is what it should because it's a guaranteed fit part. But the most important thing is it's not too loud. Cold startup, even under full acceleration, there's enough rumble for me to hear it, even when I'm cruising, but it's very mild. It's nothing more than some stock sports cars have. In fact, it's probably even less than some of them. As you can hear, I still hear my turbo through the intake more than I hear the exhaust. But now at least I hear the exhaust a bit, so it kind of mixes together and I have a better sort of audio feel as to what gear I'm in and what RPM and what the car's doing. Again, these are all things that maybe aren't necessary, but it's what I like in a car. So the whole system, from fit to looks to quality to sound, it's exactly what I wanted. In fact, it's quieter than I even thought was possible with an aftermarket. So it really does pay to go with something like a Borla. They make great exhaust and they deliver exactly what they say they're going to. So this is another big win. Later on in the series, I plan to take this car to the track once everything's done. Brakes are still a big one. And then we'll see how it all comes together. And there, I figure I'll hear a little more exhaust growl. That's sort of where I should. And then when I'm back to driving it to and from the track, it'll just be like this, where I'll hear a little turbo whoosh up front and a little rumble at the back, and it's exactly what I want. So we're back. The wheel and tires are great, but just wait till the next 2 weeks because that's really brought the car together. There's more to do. I'm waiting on a couple more parts, but where it's at now, it can really see and feel the difference. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, moving on. We are going to discuss the biggest news stories of the week. And the first one has people rioting around the world. The beloved 911 is going to go hybrid. And, same rioting as when Porsche made SUVs and Porsche made electrics. We know nothing about this. We just have a debut date. We don't know if it's going to be a gearbox-based hybrid, if it's going to be a separate motor up front that causes or creates all-wheel drive in the front, and the engine in the back powers the rear wheels. Like, I could get behind a GT3 powertrain with Another 100 horsepower up front pulling the front wheels.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. I don't know why anyone would be bothered. I mean, we do know that it's not a plug-in hybrid, so that's interesting because currently the only hybrids that Porsche sells are plug-ins. So yeah, I'm excited to find out. It's not like this is the first car to do this anyway in this segment. Like, look at the Corvette E-Ray.
Yeah.
Like, and no one's
Kyle,
complaining about that.
well, people are. Kyle, don't you know that anything electric's bad? It's bad. That's what people say on the internet. It's bad. And then if someone actually went and drove, they'd be like, oh. So yeah, like you're saying, it's not PHEV because the rest are, but that's all technology shared within the larger scope of the company. Whereas this flat six is unique to Porsche. So it'll be a different system, probably something I'd assume they're building in-house, something that maybe can expand to the Cayman if they don't go fully electric. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I have heard rumblings that we may see a naturally aspirated engine in something beyond a GT3. So yeah, so I'm curious. Like, can't wait till the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. Next, there was a story that published. It was by contribution of a couple people on the site about the worst electric cars ever sold. So I thought this is interesting because we could discuss what's the worst one we've ever experienced. So the number one on this list is actually the one that springs to mind first for me, and that's the iMIEV. The Mitsubishi, it was basically a K car from Japan, so it's already outsized here and out powertrained. The system itself got very low miles, but it drove okay. It was very golf cart feeling, and if you start pushing it through corners or getting on the highway, you kind of got a sensation of that more than a car. But to Mitsubishi's credit, this was on sale before pretty much everybody. And I think it was a vehicle that was ahead of its time in terms of technology. It powered the rear wheels, had the motor back there, sat on like a battery pack. Like, if they made something like that today, that's what a lot of people are doing. But back then, they were sort of pioneering it. So I can't say it's the worst because it's significant. But if I'm just talking about the interior, the driving experience, and the range, yeah, it's it.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean. It's funny to think back and think of how adventurous and out there Mitsubishi was back in those days. My pick, I don't know who put this list together, but my pick would be something a little more up to date, and that is the Mazda MX-30. I really enjoy a lot of Mazdas. They're very good. Sorry, Mazdas. They're very good at what they do, but that car reeks of compliance vehicle. It's when it launched. Now the CX-90 is more expensive than it, but when it launched, the MX-30 was the most expensive Mazda you could buy new, but also the least powerful, and it had 100 miles of range. It was it was disappointing. You could get a Mini Electric, which doesn't have the half rear doors, so it's a little less spacious, but at least the Mini Electric had slightly more range and was fun to drive. The Mazda MX-30 wasn't even fun. It didn't feel like a Mazda, so that was my disappointment.
Yeah, that was bad. That's similar sort of how the vehicles were when the EVs first started coming, like the Mitsubishi I mentioned, and the Leaf and the Smart EV. Yeah, and they all had pros and cons and drawbacks too, but it is crazy how far we've come in 12 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Bentley is making a new hybrid Continental. It's coming soon. So it seems everybody is getting on the hybrid train. I think because there's, in certain countries, there's tax credits because you have less emissions. But I think also manufacturers are starting to see the benefit of adding that for performance increase because it gives you a little extra boost. You can charge the engine back up as you drive, sort of like the Lamborghini Urus we talked about last week. It's a way to make more power when you need it without having to always have that more power and burning the fuel or have to turn the turbo up all the time. So that's what I assume. I mean, Bentley is a great idea because they already weigh million pounds. So a little hybrid in there is not going to change it much.
Yeah, percentage wise, it's a fraction. So what? Oh, geez, what percentage fraction? I've messed that up. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited, and I feel like once I hit a certain age, just suddenly the Continental looked really good. When I was young, I didn't get it, and now I'm just like, yes, please give me a big, comfortable Grand Tour, and in this case, a hybrid one. So I'm saving gas or getting more power.
Yeah. And our last story is, I always say this wrong. Pininfarina? Is that how you say it?
Automobili Pininfarina?
Yeah.
That's how I've always said it. I mean, I don't speak Italian, so.
So there was a car way back in the day, and a lot of people my age and younger probably don't remember it, but there's a Lancia Florida. So they made a tribute to it, which I was like, oh, cool, let's go see what it is. And it's basically a hypercar or a supercar that just has a similar paint job and a white roof. Like, I do not see the resemblance at all. I know they're like, well, the fenders kind of kick up where the headlights are, just like the old one, but there's a lot of reaching here.
Yeah. It's, look, white and blue. It's basically the same car, except, I mean, if we really want to be authentic for a Lancia Florida, then I hope this car comes with mandatory face tattoos or something to really be a Florida vehicle.
All right, and on that note,
yeah,
we're going to take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor, and when we come back, we will have Robby DeGraff from the Midwest Automotive Media Association to talk about their upcoming event that, hey, Kyle and I will be at. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Okay, everyone, let's take a minute and talk about the one that got away. The vehicle you once owned and for whatever reason had to get rid of, and to this day fully regret ever doing so. For me, it's my Subaru SVX. It was a 1997 model, which was one of the last years it was ever sold here. It was black on the outside and it had the beige leather and suede interior. It was in amazing condition for its age because it was just a one-owner vehicle. The interior was near flawless. The paint was pretty good considering it was about a 20-year-old car when I got it. I just loved everything about it. I loved the quirkiness because I love oddball cars. I love the window within the window, the power button on the gear shifter, the way the dash was laid out and you could hide the radio behind the fake wood panel. The flat six was just so smooth and it was all-wheel drive, and although it wasn't overly quick, it still had enough power. The problem was, within a year of buying that car, I ended up selling it because I got a great deal on another vehicle. And to this day, I regret doing so. Part of the reason I sold it was, although it was in great shape, it wasn't perfect and there were things that needed to be fixed, like the air conditioner, reservoir, some bearings, and other bits. And back then there was no eBay guaranteed fit program, so finding parts for such a rare 20-year-old car was not easy. Luckily, I sold it to someone who not only cared for it, but took the time to fix it up. And every once in a while, I do get to still see it, and I still regret ever getting rid of it. I am constantly online looking for a new SVX because now I have a system that I can find parts for it, but I haven't come across one that's both in the right condition and the right price range. With over 122 million parts, you can make sure your number one ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. All right, welcome back. We have a special guest today. If you could just introduce yourself and what you represent.
Absolutely. So I am Robby DeGraff. I am, well, on the clock, I am a manager of product and consumer insights at Auto Pacific. We do market research and consulting for car companies. Off the clock, I guess it's kind of on the clock still. I am the vice president of the Midwest Automotive Media Association, or MAMA. We are a nationwide organization of a couple hundred journalists, PR representatives, analysts, snack toy jurors, photographers, media professionals, all working in the automotive space. We do events throughout the year, virtual backgrounders, virtual meetings, in-person meetings, and then we also do a couple different drive events, including our upcoming 2024 rally, the spring rally at Road America next week, which is what I'm here to talk about today.
You can expand from nationwide to international because
I was going to say, yeah. we've breached outside of the borders of the U.S. and we've got our two lovely friends here from Canada joining us, and I'm so glad you both are Mama members now.
Yeah, this will be Kyle's first spring rally. I was there last year and it was great. So maybe just explain very sort of high level what happens during the rally and the reason why we're doing it.
Absolutely. So the main reason we do it is that, automakers are coming out with new vehicles throughout the year. Some of them are getting pushed out in Q1, some of them are getting pushed out in Q3. So what the rally does is it's a chance for essentially a whole big eclectic mix of professionals in the automotive space to get together for 3 days at Road America. And it's, it's a fantastic networking opportunity, but the purpose of it is seat time. So throughout the course of our event, people that are registered for the event will have a chance to drive some of these vehicles on the Road America track, which is a little bit over 4 miles. It's a road course. It's a gorgeous track. Mike, I know you've been on it. It's pretty spectacular. So people have the chance to drive new vehicles on the track. We have a really exciting off-road course. It's broken off into 2 waves. There's more of like a hardcore 4x4 route. So that's where you'll have a chance to try, like a Jeep 392 or like a Ram Rebel or a TRX or an F-150 Raptor. But then we also have expanded it recently to include kind of like a less intimidating, but still really kind of fun and spicy off-road course for soft off-roaders. So that's where you might see like your Subaru Forester out, or not. Yeah, they have a Forester Wilderness. So that's like more for your Forester Wildernesses, or a couple of years ago, we had a Mitsubishi Outlander that did the course. That was actually surprisingly very capable. It was a lot of fun. So we have track driving, we have an off-road course. Then there's also ample time for street drives. So we set up about a 20-minute drive route that goes throughout the Elkhart Lake area. It's some really, really gorgeous, like scenic, Wisconsin country roads and small town roads that people can get really a chance to get photos of the vehicle as well as like dynamics on how it feels. And then we also have a autocross aspect of the event. So we'll have a couple of cars on an actual autocross course, which actually doubles as our go-kart course. So this year, for example, Genesis is our sponsor of the autocross event. So they're going to have a couple of the G70s, the updated G70s out there for people to really kind of fling around and have fun with it. And then there's some other just fun parts throughout the event. We do a couple different dinners and meal presentations where automakers will talk about some of their new products and have, engineers and communications reps on hand to answer questions. There is a go-karting aspect of it, which we all compete for a trophy. And then there's also what I like to call our 4 miles of fitness program. So it's something that Kia does where after the day is done, the track goes cold, there's no cars on the track. People attending have the chance to ride a bike. I ride my bike. You can ride a bike, walk, or run around the Road America circuit itself. And it's a really cool way to see the track like on your own feet rather than driving by at 100 miles an hour. So it's a fantastic event that, gets a lot of these people into cars that they may not have had seat time in yet.
Yeah, last year when I went there, there was 2 vehicles that I had not driven. Well, there's a lot I hadn't driven, but 2 no one had driven out of publications. So it was nice to get some content and experience that. There's a couple back-to-back drives I did, and as you were saying, there's a lot to do. So I took the track into Miata, went for a ride in a Rolls Royce, and then went and did the off-road trail in the Raptor R. So it was a bunch of different vehicles, but it's not all just these fun vehicles too. Like there's a lot of consumer-based stuff. So it's a great opportunity to drive side by side and really examine. There's other places you can sometimes drive back to back, but you don't have time to really just kind of pick and prod at them. And since you have the entire grounds of Road America, there's so many places you can just go get away from everyone, look over the car, get your impressions and whatnot. I don't know about the go-karting this year. I did that last year and I won one of the races, but I was definitely paying for it the next day. So I think I'm at retirement age for go-karting. And I haven't done the 4 miles. So I'll think about it. I've rollerbladed and biked around Mosport, which is now Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, which isn't as big. So,
but it's so hilly.
oh yeah, I was like, this is a long time ago. I was in my early 20s, and I borrowed someone's rollerblades to do it, and then turned to I didn't really understand how steep it was, and I was going down so fast. I was like doing the cartoon with your arms going like this, and I was going on a big trip like after this, and I thought I'm gonna fall, break an arm, and miss my trip. And somehow I stayed up, and there's this kid skateboarding who like I can't believe you did that, and I was like, neither can I, and I'm never doing it again.
We do. I will, as a disclaimer, we do, and Kyle, if you'd like to join us to share for the 4 miles of fitness part. If you don't want to do the 4 miles, like the full 4 miles, we do have kind of like a cutout point at the 2 mile mark, which last year we had a group of probably like 10 or 12 people actually walk the track. And then they stopped after 2 miles just because it's, it gets pretty intense. And Mike, you know this, but some of the hills up at Road America are pretty steep. And if you're riding a road bike on it and it's windy, it definitely wears you out a little bit, but it's a fantastic way to experience the track at a slower speed.
Yeah, I run occasionally. I try to do it on most launch events, weirdly. But my running limit is usually somewhere between 3 and 5 kilometers. So this is going to be a little longer, but I'm going to force myself. Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. Do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So getting back to cars, what are the big exciting debuts? I mean, I know there's all the cars there are interesting, but what are the ones that you think are going to be very popular and people can't wait to see?
So our good friends at Rolls-Royce actually reached out to us a couple months ago, and they are going to bring us the Spectre, which is their all-new electric flagship coupe. So that's going to be there for people to drive. We had a Ghost there last year, so that was definitely a hit. So I'm excited to get some real time behind the Spectre. Ineos, who's a newcomer. Do you guys get Ineos?
We do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So they're actually bringing not 1, not 2, but 3 different Grenadiers. That they're going to have 2 of them on the off-road course. One of them is going to be for street drives. So that's going to be really hot. Hyundai is bringing an Ioniq 5N for the track. That's going to be pretty raucous. I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm looking at the list right here. We have some very definitely some very like interesting vehicles for like street drives and stuff. Volvo's EX30, which is their entry level EV that's actually made in China, that is going to be there, and that's actually going to I believe that's going to be the first time people are going to have a chance to drive it in the United States at least. So that's going to be that should be pretty interesting. GMC is going to have a Hummer EV SUV there on the off-road course. And then just some very important mainstream models like Fiat's 500e is going to be on the autocross course. Lincoln is bringing their new Aviator. It's going to be a static one, but it's still going to be there for people to see and check out the technology. Just about everything from BMW and Buick all the way up to Volkswagen, Subaru, Toyota. I think we have a little over 70 cars signed up. So a really, really good mix of vehicles.
Yeah, the biggest problem is running out of time to drive them all. Remember that last year? You have to kind of make a short list of, I got to get these, and then maybe I can do these. And by the end of the day, you're just driving other things because it's what's available.
The advantage is there's 2 of us this year.
Yes, that's true. Double the content. So next week's episode, we will be discussing sort of what we did there to a degree, but we won't be giving away our big content because we still have to get that together. And we'll have lots to talk about for weeks to come. So thank you for coming, Robby. It was great talking to you.
I'm thrilled you both are joining us, and we're excited to have you as Mama members. And next week's going to be great. I'm really excited. We have a fantastic team of volunteers who have put in so much time to make this event probably like the pinnacle event of the U.S. automotive industry media associations. I still feel like AJAC, you guys do some amazing stuff that we need to get caught up on at some point.
I mean, we don't have a run around our racetrack yet, so we need to catch up to you guys.
But I'm so excited you both are joining us, and it was an honor to talk to you both today.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have you back on probably in your other job because you
Yeah.
do a lot of good work there and a lot of insights for us. So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
we'll see you in a couple days, and we look forward to the event. And to everyone watching and listening, starting next week, we'll be able to give you a bunch of stories and opinions of some brand new machinery.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Robby.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right, it's time for our weekly F1 news and rumors. We have Colin Wood back on to join us. What do you have for us this week?
Lots of juicy little bits and pieces, as always. Thanks for having me. Maybe the first bit, which is maybe not that exciting, is that Alex Albon re-signed with Williams, and I feel like maybe everybody needs to be more creative. First, Alonso re-signed with Aston Martin, and now Albon at Williams. And I thought the driver market was going to get a lot wilder, and everyone just seems to be signing with the people that they're at. So hopefully the next signing will be, maybe stir things up a little bit more. So
yeah, I know you're going to lead into this probably with your next little news bit, but I'm wondering, Albon signing again, and who knows how long, but he's shown speed and promise this year that some of the bigger teams, I would think, were maybe looking at him as their second driver. So him signing on again makes me think the team has said, hey, we're going to, be better next year, or maybe we'll get you a second driver that can help co-develop better, because I think right now it's so one-sided. So I think there has to be something that they've kind of promised or alluded for him to sign already.
I wonder if there's a little deal in there, because it's not official that Williams is the feeder team to Mercedes, right? But it's certainly sort of gone that way over the past couple of years. And I wonder if, maybe there's a part of that contract that includes the possibility to go to Mercedes, because I'm sure Mercedes right now is unwilling to, I think they would probably entertain Albon, but they're probably looking to see how their second seat pans out with Sainz first. You'd want him before anybody else, or or if they go with this Kimi kid as well. So that's a big piece of it.
The way the season started with Hamilton signing Ferrari before it even started, you're like, this is gonna be crazy, or it'd be hilarious at the end of the year. Sainz went to Mercedes and Lewis goes to Ferrari. So they basically did a trade, and that's it.
Yeah, it was a swap, and everybody else stays the same. I mean, there have to be other people to change. I know, we've seen that Magnussen's probably going, just gone. He'll wind up somewhere else. I was mentioning this. One of the rumors that didn't come true, at least not yet, is that it was rumored that Logan Sargent would be tossed by now from Williams, and in his place would be the Kimi Antonelli, the sort of new up-and-comer who's 17 years old. So I think they're still waiting on if he gets approval by the FIA to race, because apparently if you're under 18 now, you actually have to get some special approval process done. So he's not there. He is racing in Formula 2 this weekend, so he's actually at the track. So I saw something on my Twitter feed about how it's like, oh, he spun out. I'm like, oh my goodness, he's driving, and he's, oh, what's going on? And I'm like, oh no, it's just F2. It's fine. I mean, obviously, if you're in F2, that's critical, but it wasn't F1 news. So
you mentioned 17 and you're already at the level that you should be in F1. That's crazy.
I know. It's impressive though, but I think some guys just are, right? And some guys aren't. I think even we've talked about this before about Piastri. Young came in, first couple of races was spectacular, really, really good, and then he just kind of trailed off a little bit. And mostly, it seems, all the commentary seems to indicate that it's due more to his tire wear and his ability to keep the tires alive for a longer period of time. So he's got the raw pace, no doubt, right? But you need more than that. You need to be actually able to manage all the factors, and he slipped a little bit in that now. So, but I think that'll take some time. He's obviously got lots of talent for the future. So
yeah, and their car's so good right now. He's still up there contending. It's just he was battling Norris for places before. Now it seems he's always 3 or 4 behind. But
yeah, he seems like in the first couple races of the year, he seemed like there were 2 number 1 drivers at McLaren all of a sudden, and now it seems like Norris seems to have sort of staked his claim. And who knows, maybe nothing changed with Piastri, and it's all just Norris, that he had to rise to the occasion, right? When you've got somebody who's really good and next to you, and it says, oh, you've got to finally give it those extra 2/10 every lap, because otherwise, you're going to wind up being a number 2 guy. So who knows?
Who knows?
So there's a tiny rumor that Gunter Steiner. A couple weeks ago, I said how Haas he was suing Haas for some unpaid wages. Now apparently Haas is suing him related to in his book, I guess he published some photos that were breached trademark rules. That's the gist of it. It may just be a counter lawsuit just to, draw.
Yeah, that sounds like they're pulling at straws. Like, oh, hey, we can get them on this because they can't anything else. And
yeah,
they just settle. Like, you get a 0.5% of proceeds in for my book. Like,
yeah.
It'll lead to nothing, I'm sure.
Yeah. So my final item is I have a spiel, but my question for you, Mike, is if you could talk to anybody, sit down for like dinner with anybody in the paddock, Formula One, maybe even past, present, I don't know, like not just the drivers. Let's put it that way. Who would it be? Like, do you have somebody you'd be like, oh, I'd love to talk to?
Yeah, I think it would be drivers. I mean, the other individuals that I know from the past or from watching their TV show, I think I'd like to probably Lando. Just he's my favorite driver, and he seems like just a genuinely nice, good guy. Like, I don't think it's an act where some of the drivers you're like, what are they really like behind the scenes? I mean, he's kind of out there with all his streaming stuff, so like he can't keep that up all the time. But my second choice would then be Alonso, I think, because he seems like he'd be fun to talk to, and he's like my age, so it'd be great to be like, how are you doing this at this age? Like, I played baseball yesterday and I'm so sore.
Yeah, you could ask him, what was grunge music like in Spain in the 90s, right? Like,
exactly.
Did you guys listen to a lot of Pearl Jam? Maybe that'd be a good topic. I like that, actually. That's a cool. It's true. It's funny how you equate them with being an old man, and then you realize, oh wait, I'm older than he is, and I'm like, oh crap, that says bad things about me. But
I can see what his first CDs were. See if he got Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam is his first 2 CDs as well.
He might. So yeah, I was thinking about this because I came across that concept of like, who do I want to talk to, because one of the recent F1 podcasts is an interview with Martin Brundle, and who's, people who don't follow Formula One, he's the guy who's the voice of Formula One most of the time, giving the color commentary. And I just find him fascinating. He seems so genuinely honest. And so I listened to this podcast, and I, despite being on a podcast and doing a lot of other podcasting things, I don't just listen to random stuff. And despite loving Formula One, I'm like, I haven't been like compelled to listen to their podcast at all. But I saw this and I'm like, oh, I love Martin Brundle. So, and it's just this fascinating story. It's particularly relevant. This one is because this week, I mean, we're essentially 30 years since the passing of Ayrton Senna, and he died at Imola, and this race is Imola. I think he died on May 1st. So it's like the timing isn't exact, but it's off by 2 weeks, and the teams are all at the exact same track where he died. So it's all relevant. And so Martin Brundle actually talks about how he sort of, raced against Senna in the early days. He actually, and I didn't know this, he actually he graduated to Formula One from like F2 or whatever the previous series was. He raced against Senna for a championship in the UK, and he came second. And Senna beat him, and he was just sort of, he talks a little bit about who he was as a person, what he thinks he'd be doing now. He jokes that would he be the prime minister of Brazil or the president of Brazil. So I think that there's just a lot in there, and I would encourage anybody who's interested in F1 or et cetera. I just really enjoyed the frankness of the discussion, and there's some crazy stories too about because the team he was with, Tyrrell. At the time, they got like banned from the Formula One, and there's an interesting backstory behind it all. How he basically talks about how it was when the Formula One was moving from the non-turbo to the turbo era, and how the team got banned and basically booted out of F1, and how Martin Brundle sort of says that it really had nothing to do with anything the team was pulling at the time, even though the team was pulling a lot of tricks to get by the rules. It really had more to do with the fact that the Tyrrell folks did not have a turbocharged engine, and all the teams had to agree to use the turbo engine for it to go forward. And so basically he wouldn't agree. So they basically just booted him out of Formula One. All the other teams said, see you later, and got rid of him. And I was like, wow, that's pretty sketchy. But yeah, it's a great story, and there's a lot of other just good insights. So I encourage you to check it out. So
yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, I think that's it for this week. Next week, we'll have you back and hopefully have some new news and rumors, and see what happens over the next week with the teams.
Yeah, see if anything wild happens at Imola this weekend. Maybe another rando winner, maybe Yuki Tsunoda. How about that?
Well, it's Piastri should have the upgrades that Lando had. So if that's the real pace, that could be interesting. It'd be really crazy if someone's actually pushing the Red Bulls all race, but we'll have to wait and see.
We will. We'll talk soon, Mike.
Well, everyone will know by the time they hear this because it'll already happen. But all right. I'll see you next week.
Thanks. Take care.
All right. Well, it's always fun having Robby on. I am sure we'll have him on again in the future. So I guess we've already kind of answered a lot of what's next. It's you and I are going to Wisconsin and heading up to Road America for the week to drive a whole bunch of different cars and comparisons. We'll get lots of content for the show and the site from there. Because we have a short week in Canada, that pretty much takes up our whole week. Mm-hmm. I am getting a Gladiator on the Friday when we return, and I got some truck things I need to do. So it's good. I can use it how it was meant to be. But other than that, it's going to be a lot of stuff from the event and nothing that we have really back home.
It's true. Yeah. But I mean, it's going to be a busy time. There's a lot of vehicles that we're very excited to be driving there. That's I have nothing else to add.
Yeah. There's even some stuff there that I'm like, oh, I could drive that. There's no reason I need to or should, but I'm going to. So look for that. All right. Well, that wraps it up. This has been another episode of the Auto Guide Show brought to you by eBay Motors, and we will be back next week. Till then, see you later.
So long, everyone.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Your elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a driveway entirely its own. Brake kits, LED headlights, whatever you need, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.